So I just had a moment that I think we all have, and it made me think about talking about transcendence in art. And I hope that this will be an interesting little discussion that hopefully will give you some excitement and enjoyment for what you're working on now, if you're working on a creative project. And if you're a fan of art, maybe it'll rekindle a little bit of the joy of art. So we've all had this moment where you hear a song that you were connected to, you know, when you were in like junior high or something like that. And I have a specific song. I literally had this moment when I started my car after work today, where I work as an art director. So I start my car, get off work, and I turn on the car, and the song Say It Ain't So by Weezer, Blue Album, classic song, amazing album. Not a huge fan of the modern Weezer, but that's beside the point. I love the Blue Album and Pinkerton. I think they're close to perfect albums. The Blue Album might actually be a perfect musical album. But anyhow, so Say It Ain't So comes on, and I'm hit with this moment that I think most of us have experienced. I think most of us have had a time where there is a song or a book or a comic book or an animation or a TV series, some piece of art that we experienced as kids, that moved us as kids. And as you get older, there's so much meaning embedded in each book or song that kind of ignites that feeling in us when we're young. Because it in a weird way, like that song, for instance, Say It Ain't So by Weezer, that song has lived with me since 7th grade. And in 7th grade, I remember the first time I heard it, just being like blown away by the emotion of it. And not like a gimmicky emotion, like it had like this sincere emotion to it. It's like a really powerful song. And the sound and the guitar work, the riff on it is so unique and like uses off timing, but it's not like reggae, but it has like a reggae vibe to it. It's just a really great song. A really great song with like perfect tones. All the guitar tones on that record are like just disgustingly good. And it sends me back to like when I'm a kid, putting in a tape of this in my cassette player, right, in my bedroom as a teenager, and all that was happening around me at the time, right? It kind of causes me to time travel. And this all happens within a few seconds. And suddenly I'm there, and then suddenly I'm in high school listening to it or talking about it. And suddenly I'm in college listening to it while I kind of trying to work on stuff. And suddenly I'm, you know, hanging out with my wife on a trip, and you know, we're not even married at that point. You know, it's when we're dating and we're on a road trip, and that song's playing. And suddenly I'm like in 50 million places at once, listening to this song. I know it's kind of corny, but that happens like that, like in an instant. That is art. Whether it's now for you, that song again is probably not Say It Ain't So by Weezer. Maybe it's not a song. Maybe it's a book. But there is probably some artwork that has lived with you since you were young that has such an emotional pull on you that it can cause you to time travel within a second. And it can take on new meaning because it's been there. That art has been there, you know, for a really long time in your life, in ups and downs, right? It's the art was there. So I don't know if I'm like articulating this all that well, but I guess my thought is, if art has, at least that song for me had that moment, and maybe it's a weird day, maybe it's, you know, the special time of day where, I don't know, I'm in a pretty good mood. As I've gotten older, I've gotten sappier, so it could be that. But I think there's something to it. I think there's something to like the transcendence that art can make us feel, because of the attachment that we make with different artwork that speaks to us at different areas of time in our life. And the artwork that continues to speak to us through different years, you know, and I'm envisioning at like 90 hearing that song and like the weird time travel experience that'll happen. And then I'm reminded of like these videos that have that I believe I saw on like YouTube or whatever, where there will be an older person with Alzheimer's, you know, in like their 90s, who has lost memory of everything, and they put on like some swing record that the person used to listen to when they were a kid, or in their young early 20s, and suddenly they'll like, something ignites in their brain, and it's like their identity comes back briefly. It's like this weird experience where art connects to some form of consciousness in us that goes beyond words, to like an experience of memory and feeling and significance, and intangible significance. You can't put a price on that. And so again, I don't want to overblow the importance of that song, but for me, that song does that for me. There's a bunch of music that does that for me, but I haven't really talked about, or maybe I have, but I wanted to talk about why we're doing art should be at least an attempt to do that for someone. An attempt to touch into this like ethereal plane of sound and text, and like try to tap into this greater significance, because and as you're working, and I need to remember this, as you're working on stuff, realize that you might be that for somebody 20 years from now. 20 years from now, there might be somebody who bought your book today, or bought your music today, or bought, you know, your painting today, and got an emotional response from it. Like it spoke to them somehow in a subconscious way. And maybe 2 decades from now, you know, they'll start the car, put on your album comes on, and they might even have to stop the music, because the time travel, that moment hits, and you're forced to, you know, that person is forced to, you know, forced is the wrong word. That person is able, because of the facilitation, I don't even think that's a word, but because of the way that you are creating a doorway to like a different plane of time and space. It's like the Twilight Zone, and you're creating it for people. It's a different dimension. And there are some people out there, I gotta hope that all of us have one person who's gonna have that connection with our art. And that is the goal. That's the goal. That's the big art stuff, the big capital A art stuff. And I think like whatever genre we're working in, you know, it doesn't have to be a snobby, like crazy genre. It could be something like a Weezer song. Yeah, so anyhow, that happened today to me, and I felt very fortunate that song existed, and that I knew that song when it came out, and that I had followed it, and it had followed me for so long of my life, and been there at like these really important moments. So basically, all I'm saying is don't forget the transcendent nature of art, and the fact that you, at the power of your fingertips as an artist, could possibly access this or give access to this to somebody out there who may not even be conscious of the connection that you're building with them. That's art. That's what we need to be trying to do with art. As silly as it is, let's not forget that. Let's not forget that possibility. And that could be, you know, anything, any form of art. It could be a wacky pack. I get a similar feeling if I like see an old wax pack of cards, you know, and the really disgusting bubble gum that would come in those. I have a really emotional connection to those things because it sends me back to like when I would do open a wacky pack or get a pack of Garbage Pail Kids cards, or, you know, and you got to think about comics and the history of comics, you know. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, like, there's a million properties in comics that can send us back. I think that's why people get so attached to these older properties and superheroes and stuff. But yeah, like, don't forget, like, think right now, before you work on your art, what's the most, what is the most, that's the wrong way to put it. Think right now about your art, and then stop for a second and think about a book that you read that had an impact on you, like years ago, and it kind of followed you. Calvin and Hobbes, something like that. And think about how that makes you feel, like when you re-look at that stuff. Or music that, you know, has been just on continual play throughout a good chunk of your life. And how you feel about that. And realize you can make somebody feel that way with your art. And that's good. That's cool. So we're making powerful stuff, guys. We're making transcendent stuff, powerful stuff. And you have the power, as corny as it is. So yeah, that's it. That's my vloggins. If you haven't yet, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the comments. Well, don't hit the comments, because like some of the comments might be nice. They may not deserve to be hit. But yeah, leave a comment. Maybe the best thing to do here would be tell me a piece of art or music that you first discovered at a really young age and has just continually been there like a good friend for, you know, a good chunk of your life. It could be anything. So have fun in the comments. I love to hear it. I'd love for us to share some inspiration. And hopefully we'll all take that fire and put it in our work. All right, see you next time.